Okay, so I got back on. Hooray. This is me a couple years after I bought my R6 in Deals Gap. I used to live in Kentucky, so I would go down to the Tail of the Dragon, which was only 3 hours from my house, 3 or 4 times a year. This is the bike that I rode here on tonight. It's my baby. Her name is Breezy. This is me before I had any advanced type training. But I decided that after I got my own motorcycle, I knew that it wasn't just about wearing all the gear. It was about getting properly trained and riding smart, because those are the things that are really going to save your life. Your gear is your last chance. It's your last resort. So my message, of course, is about wearing all the apparel, but if we can prevent the crash from happening in the first place, then maybe I won't have to tell this story for the rest of my life. Okay, so then I got properly trained. This is me taking a total control class. So this is a parking lot with cones. You can see that we're in a parking lot. Learning more advanced, body positioning and body riding techniques from a Lee Parks total control class. And then this is me at Fontana just a couple of months ago, ripping it up like I like to do. Sport bike riding is the closest thing to my heart. I have lots of other types of motorcycles that I've ridden and owned. Long distance touring and dual sport is one of the other things that I love so very much. But this is what's closest to my heart. So getting properly trained is another part of my message. And getting properly trained is actually what I do for a living. I'm an MSF rider coach for the Navy and Marine Corps, which is why I was down in San Diego, 2.5 hours away from you beautiful people. So that's what I do 5 days a week now, is I do mandatory training all the way from the beginning classes up to the advanced sport bike technique course. So if you guys have any questions at the end of the presentation about MSF type stuff, I love to answer those as well. I'm not standing up here in front of you on behalf of the MSF, but it is what I do for a living. So if you have questions, I'd love to answer those. Okay, so let's talk about what I could have worn in my crash and what most riders could wear in order to prevent the type of injuries not only that I sustained, but that most street riders sustain in crashes. So first and foremost, most important piece of equipment is always going to be your helmet. DOT approval is the very minimum that I would suggest. The reason DOT approval is what I would suggest is because you're going to need an EPS foam liner and a hard shell on the outside to work together, because with one or the other, it's not going to be able to do that type of life-saving job that we want our helmets to do. So make sure you've got that DOT sticker. There are a lot of other certifications that you can look for. Right now, there's SNEL, ECE, the Australian standard, which I think is AU, Japanese standard. There's a lot of them out there. But again, DOT is going to be what you want to look for here, not only to make you legal, but to make sure that you're getting the type of protection that you want that's going to maybe save your life someday. A jacket, make sure it's full sleeved, abrasion resistant, and impact resistant. Most often, as street riders, we come into contact with something that's immovable, and that's what causes all of our fatal injuries. So make sure you're looking for armor as well as abrasion resistance. It's not just about dressing for the slide, it's about dressing for the slide that ends in a whack. And unfortunately, there's poles and cars and guardrails and curbs and lots of other things that we can hit that make our insides go, oh, I don't think so. So consider that. It's just as important as the abrasion resistance. I was really lucky to not have any type of internal injuries or run into anything, but as my skin, is actually an organ in my body, the abrasion resistance was what I really needed in my crash. Gloves, full-fingered gloves. I would highly suggest leather on your palms, because as humans, what do? We stick our hands out when we fall. It's just a reaction that our bodies have. Armor on the back of the hands is something that I would suggest. It's not necessary, but if your hands are going to hit the ground at a high rate of speed, all of the bones in your hands are very fragile, and we use our hands for everything. So think about how important it is to protect your hands the next time you're brushing your teeth or writing your name, because those are the kinds of things that I had to learn how to do all over again because I messed my hands up pretty bad. Eye protection. If you're wearing a full face helmet or a 3/4 helmet, then it's probably most likely going to come with a shatterproof visor. If you're wearing a half shell helmet, then you're going to need eye protection that is shatterproof. So I would highly recommend motorcycle-specific glasses or goggles and nothing else, simply because everybody knows what it's like to get a star on their windshield when you're driving a car and the truck in front of you kicks that rock back. Well, if that's your eyewear, if that's the only thing between your eyeball and that rock, you better make sure that it's shatter resistant or shatterproof, or you're going to have a pretty bad day. This has never happened to me, but I've had things hit my visor and just kept on going. So it is very, very important to consider if you're only going to have a half shell helmet, or if you're going to even ride with your visor up. Back, chest, and neck protection. This is something that a lot of street riders are really considering nowadays, getting extra armor in their back, in the back plates of their jackets. Kidney protection with, say, a chest protector, which will have a chest plate, kidney belt, and articulated back, so that you can be nice and bendy forward, but not so nice and bendy backwards, which is what we really don't want as riders. At the end of the day, we all know that we can die doing what we love, but I think that sometimes worse than dying is barely surviving. And the kinds of injuries that would put us, say, in a wheelchair for the rest of our lives and have to depend on somebody else to take care of us, that's not anything that someone, I think, would volunteer for, simply because we want our freedom. I mean, we want to be out on those motorcycles. It's why we do what we do. So don't put yourself in that situation. Consider that that is another thing that you have to think about as a rider, and how important it is to protect the important parts of your neck, back, and internal organs. Okay, let's go to the lower body. If it will go there. That sounded dirty. All right. Pants. Everybody wants to ride in jeans. I know how comfortable riding in jeans is. But if you're going to ride in jeans, if you absolutely must, I highly recommend motorcycle-specific jeans that are going to have extra abrasion resistance in the knees, the hips, and in the butt. Simply because that's where we're going to slide, that's where we're most often going to come into contact with something. So Kevlar and Dyneema, really important to add into your cotton, because it'll only last for about 15 feet at a 15-mile-an-hour slide. And if you've ever crashed in jeans, you know what I'm talking about. Also, armor is really important in your jeans as well. I ripped both my kneecaps off. I don't need to tell you guys how important it is to have knees. But, you know, consider what it's like to move around freely and without a bunch of pain, and what it would be like if you were now like me and had to get out of bed in the morning and feel like a 120-year-old lady. All right. Boots. Again, this is something that riders usually choose to forego simply because they aren't the most comfortable footwear to walk around in the mall or at bike night in. But consider the fact that a quarter of all the bones in your body are located below your knees. And then how important is it to walk around and be able to get to and from where you're going every single day without any pain, or, you know, without any hindrance. So over the ankle is the first thing that you want to look for. Make sure that you have armor in that ankle, because even if the bike falls over at 0 miles an hour on top of your foot, it can cause life-changing injuries. And it's not only embarrassing to drop your bike on your foot, but it hurts pretty bad. Abrasion resistance and impact protection, again, it's going to be the same thing. If you're sliding down the road, you don't want the canvas on your chucks to wear down and then have your toes turn into hamburger like mine did. That's what my mom said they look like in the hospital. And then also impact protection again. I wouldn't recommend steel-toed boots simply because of the way that the energy is dispersed when your foot hits the ground at that kind of speed. But motorcycle-specific is going to be the key word here. Even if it's a motorcycle-specific high-top tennis shoe, it's going to be made for those kinds of crashes or those kinds of impacts. So even if it's not a boot, consider that. And then, of course, everybody knows how slippery the road can get when it's raining or if there's oil on the ground. If you put your foot down in a pair of Chucks or another type of tennis shoe, you're more than likely going to slip and the bike will fall over, and then we're in that embarrassing situation again. With motorcycle-specific footwear, it's going to be non-slip and it's going to be really grippy, not only on the ground but on your pegs as well, and we want our feet to stay on the pegs when we're riding. Alright, making sure that your gear fits is just as important as choosing the right apparel. I'm not going to tell you what brand, make, model, textile, leather, cut, shape, color that you should wear, because every rider's a little bit different and everyone's going to have a personal comfort factor there. So what I urge you to do is find something that's right for you. What's right for you might not be right for the person next to you. But if you're not comfortable in what you're wearing, you're not going to wear it. So why have it in the first place? The worst type of jacket that you can buy is the one that you wear once or twice, you hate, and you throw in the back of your closet. And then you never wear it again. So making sure that your helmet fits correctly is really important. Y'all are in a really good place right now because we have Schubert here who will help you with your helmet fitment. So now you don't even have to go into that. Yay! So if you haven't had your head professionally fit, I urge you to get that wonderful experience and take advantage of that while you're here, because not every dealership knows what they're talking about, and the information that you find on the internet can only take you so far. So have somebody in person fit you while you're here. Make sure that your helmet shape and that your head shape are matching, because there are 3 different types of helmet shapes to fit different head shapes. So make sure that they work together, because if it doesn't fit right, it's not going to be able to do its job to the full extent. Jackets, pants, and gloves. This is really kind of self-explanatory. If you can expose your skin, or if you can displace the armor in any of these items simply by pulling on it with your hand, I assure you the road can do 10 times worse. So make sure that you're getting something that not only fits snugly, but that it, again, is comfortable for you. If you can expose your skin or displace that armor, it's either the wrong cut or it's the wrong size. So do some shopping before you make your decision, and walk around in it. Sit on the motorcycle. Make sure that you like the way that it looks and the way that it feels. And then boots. Are they comfortable is the most important thing, really, simply because you'll throw them in the back of your closet if you don't like them. And if we're focused on how much our feet hurt, we're not focused on the road in front of us. So make sure that they don't put undue pressure on your toes or your ankles, especially if you're going to go over the ankle boots. Sometimes people will say that laces are a bad thing on motorcycle boots. If there's laces, just make sure there's a way to secure them down. I wear laced boots, but there's a strap that goes over them. I've never had an issue in the 7 years that I've been riding since my crash. And then also touching the ground comfortably. I wouldn't recommend full-length motocross boots for riding on the street, simply because you can't articulate your ankle the way that you want to. So if your boots are hindering your ability to touch the ground in the way that you feel most comfortable, then I would highly suggest looking for a different pair of footwear. Alright, so motivation to wear all your gear all the time. This is the last thing that Rock the Gear does. We give free, information and statistics on, why you would wear your gear as far as what it's going to do protection-wise. But at the end of the day, we're humans, and we like to make decisions that sometimes don't make sense. So who benefits from wearing all the gear? And it's not just you, okay? So remember the story that I told you earlier? Well, I didn't go through that by myself. I drugged my mom, my dad, and my little brother through hell with me for 8 months. I didn't just lose 8 months of my life. I stole 8 months of my parents' lives from them worrying about me, whether I was going to survive, whether we were going to be able to afford the medical bills. Fortunately, I had TRICARE insurance, so I'm not $1 million in debt right now from my medical bills, but I would be if I did not have health insurance in this crash. So whether it's for yourself and the pain that you don't want to go through, or it's for your children who expect, mom and dad to